Hellcat.
Welcome to the third episode of Matt Chats. I'm here with Adam Ochart from Gong. He is a commercial account executive. Adam and I have met a few years back at Outreach's Unleash conference, which, you know, Adam, I think he tried to win me over with his product by keep getting me some drinks or so, but he's an awesome guy. I love him. We've stayed connected since. So Adam, welcome to Matt Chats today.
Thanks, Matt. It's funny. It feels like conferences are so far removed. That feels like decades ago. But yeah, it's great to be at Unleash. And obviously Huddle's a fantastic product. I was an athlete many moons ago. So big fan of what you guys are doing. And I think, I'm excited to chat today.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait. So Adam is, like I said earlier, a commercial account executive. He has recently transitioned from an SDR role to the account executive role. So he's going to help bridge that gap between the entire sales perspective to the enablement team. So that way we can truly identify how do we work hand in hand with the sales reps, not our directors, not our CROs, but a sales rep in the entire atmosphere as well. So Adam, before we get started, how about you just do a quick intro on yourself and kind of your background and how you came to be where you're at today?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I've been at Gong, for about 20 months now, which in software sales, I feel like is a long time. I was roughly SDR number 10. We had about 20 sales reps total. For any of you that follow Gong, we're now at about 100 sales reps. So even split about 50-50. And I've recently transitioned, in Q4 last year, transitioned from SDR to AE. So I've kind of learned a lot. I'd like to consider myself one of the founding sales members here at Gong. And it's been just a really great experience. I've learned a ton. And I think the most exciting thing for me about my journey here is really how it started. And prior to Gong, I'd never been in sales before. I worked for a nonprofit. I worked with kids, and I was in the golf industry. So a complete U-turn. I needed to learn quickly. I needed to adapt. I failed a ton. I've leaned on enablement a ton. So I think that's number one why I'm really bullish on talking about Gong as a collective, but also excited to talk to you today about some of the ways I was able to partner with our team to allow me to succeed in the role.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that. I love the background, and especially being well-rounded and ramping up as quick as you did. Like that's huge. So as a partner in the sales industry, how do you currently work with your enablement partners going forward?
It's funny. I think there's a lot of different ways. I think the golden rule is, and it's going to almost come off as harsh, but as a sales rep, you can't complain about anything that you haven't tried to fix, right? And I think when I think about the relationships that we have and the partnership we have with enablement, there's a constant back and forth about what they're delivering and what we need. And I think that the number one most fundamental thing is being vocal about the things that are happening to us on the front lines. I think, and maybe this resonates with you, there's a ton of reps that all have unique needs. And I think unless people are stating what those are, no one's going to get solutions, right? And I think just as much as I want to be helped, you don't want to work on projects that don't help the team. So simplifying that kind of long-winded answer, I do everything that I can to get our enablement team on the front lines, whether it's sharing calls, tagging them in moments, or simple Slack saying this keeps coming up, how can we fix this? And the more I think I bring them to the front lines, the more that they're armed to handle those problems and help the company.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mentioned this in my interview with John, the collaborator, but the biggest thing for me is definitely listening to our customers. And I think that, Adam, you hit that right on the nail on the head there. Listening to exactly what they're needing and how do we incorporate that and move with them along the front lines, even though we're not directly out there with the customers. So yeah, hands down, like number one fact, I will hold true to that one for sure. Describe your gold medal moment or your mountaintop success story with or while working with your enablement partner. What were the final products or the steps that you guys got to basically blow the project that you guys were working on out of the water?
It's funny. I think that to set the table, it starts with my worst moment at Gong, or like my darkest time. So I mentioned I came with very little sales experience. I'd never sold before. So this was like November, December 18, it's end of Q4. I'm fresh off ramp and I missed my number, and it was pretty bad. I forget the exact metrics we're striving towards. Let's just say 15 meetings we needed to book a month as an SDR. I was south of 5, right? So I was beneath the 30% mark. I was panicking. I was like, I got in the wrong field. I should have never done this. Luckily, a few things fell into place at the same time. We kind of had an all hands on deck. We didn't quite have a full enablement. It was more or less sales managers that were rolling it out, and we were in the process of hiring our first enablement rep. But essentially, number one, we looked at the data. We went back and analyzed, why am I failing? Why am I struggling? And then we started to, look at the exact moments. And I think it was pretty evident that I just couldn't overcome objections. I was talking over people. I was continuously in the pitch, feature functionality, little things like that. I happen at the same time be reading Chris Voss's book, who I hear a ton of people talk about in sales. It's really good. Never Split the Difference. And he has that simple process of mirror and ask a loaded question, right? So simply repeat what the person said back to you and ask an impact question, get an understanding of where that's coming from. So kind of coupling those two things together, I sat down with our leadership and said, I can get better. Let's try this. And we created a new format in terms of how we overcome objections at Gong. So it's simply pause, ask a loaded question, or mirror that prospect back, and then ask a loaded question and basically get to a call to action after that. So I went from missing my number to reformatting how we overcome objections. And then I began to lead that onboarding session that still continuously goes on today, over a year later.
That is awesome. That is absolutely incredible. So nice job on identifying that and actually, improving throughout that. Can you describe, though, on the flip side of this, where is the time that you feel like you've dropped the ball with your partnership with working with enablement, either personally or like as a company or yourselves working together?
I think it stems back to the first point in terms of just like feedback, right? I think that it is my duty, not for myself, but like for my team, my company, and for enablement as a collective, to continuously give them feedback on the things that are going on the front lines. In addition to that, how I'm receiving the specific trainings or the specific materials they're rolling out. I don't necessarily have like a specific one-off instance, but I can just say as a collective, my contribution, it kind of, hit low, specifically when I transitioned from SDR to AE, where I wasn't giving feedback. And I think the difficult thing is when we're the busiest as sales reps is when we need enablement the most. That's when we need to give the most feedback and start to, relay the things that we're running into. And I think that would have been a pivotal moment where I could have said, hey, I'm really struggling and these are the specific areas. And I didn't. I kind of just fell into a cave and tried to work my way out of it.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm going to throw a random question at you right now. I didn't have that on the script for us, but in a example right now, so given that you're an account executive, where do you feel like the feedback is necessary to come from an account executive, an SDR, versus somebody in leadership or management at the same time for enablement?
Yeah, that actually is a good question. And you're putting me on the spot. I think that we have access to things that are more topical and more on the front lines, right? So I think that at a certain point, I start to recognize trends that hit a critical mass. I think that I can really quickly just funnel that up as quickly as possible. And I think to your point, there are the two routes, right? Do I go to my direct manager or do I go to enablement? And I think that it's my job to kind of vet whether I think it's serious enough or something that's impactful enough to know that, like, well, my manager is also running 10 pipelines. He's running 10 pipelines that roll up to him. Right. And I think that the main thing is it's a lot of times the discussion isn't necessarily this is happening, help me. It's this is happening to me. Is it happening to others? And if it is, let's see how we can alleviate this as a team.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that.
I'm going to flip it on you, man. I want to hear your take on that. When do you think is the right time for me to go to my manager and alternatively me to go to you directly?
Yeah, so that's a good point. We actually beta test we do a lot of A/B testing on our end with our sales management team. We do promote within most of our sales managers from AE, so they understand those processes. We're not shy of feedback. We actually have an open Slack channel where if a rep has a question or has feedback regarding one of the new rollouts or plans that we did, it's open feedback to put in there. And us as enablement partners or operations team, we'll actually take a step back, evaluate that feedback. And if we get enough of them, obviously it builds a business case for us that we do need to evaluate and change that at the same time. So there's no such thing as bad feedback as long as there is an outcome that is desired when you're doing it and not just to complain about what you don't like. So we're welcome to all of it. I think same thing for you guys. Like, as long as there's a desired outcome and a reason why we've implemented something, I think it's easy enough for sales to agree that we need to make that change. We need to drive that force and really just drive with what enablement's putting out there as well. So
Yeah, no, that helps. I think we're on the same page, different lens.
yeah, totally. So I know you probably don't work particularly on the release side of things, but when it comes down to enablement, releasing materials and stuff like that, how do you guys partner up with them? And then how do you make sure that that information is either relayed or trained or distributed out to you guys properly?
Yeah, I think that there's two things. I think number one is really leveraging like a beta test within the team. I'm not typically always involved in this. I think it's the nature of me just kind of being newer in the AE role, but some of my colleagues are, where they're beta testing specific talk tracks, product rollouts, how we position a new differentiation feature. And I think that those are hyper important. And I think that also when it comes time to eventually then roll out that product or that feature or that new talk track, when our enablement team leans on those individuals in those group team trainings, hearing it from their mouths is very powerful. So I think that that's one thing that I think is I think that's really important. I'll be blunt, I forgot the second thing that I was going to mention there, but I think that that's the main thing in terms of how we can help and how we work as a team there.
Awesome. I'll forgive you on the second point for sure.
It's a Monday, man.
I feel ya. So I always like this question. It's very open-ended. There's never a wrong or right answer, but it's definitely one that gets the gears turning a lot. If you had a magic wand with no limitations, no budget constraints, no nothing, how would you build a collaborative relationship with your enablement team from a sales perspective?
I guess it's less than tied with budget. I would love to see, I don't know, that's tough. I feel like this is a rude thing to state. I would love to see people enablement run a sales cycle. I think that it would be really interesting to see their take on it and to see how it would change their day-to-day and their focus. I think that there's really no way for us to relay everything that we're going through in terms of, pitching the product, overcoming objections, to all these different things in the dynamic nature of sales, unless you're on the front line. So the idea I think that's really powerful is how close can you get? I think it'd be interesting to see, even if it was just riding shotgun, having someone that's along the lines having to, reactively act in the sales process.
That's awesome. I personally have been in sales for 10 years before I did enablement. So I totally agree. I think anybody that's in enablement should at least have a frontline seat, like, as you said, in the passenger seat, watching as you guys go through the sales cycle for sure. Any lessons that you've learned along the way to either simplify your involvement or to make the process from start to finish with enablement a little easier for you guys?
No, I think that the truth is there's a lot of people that want to help. And I think that from an enablement perspective, our team does a pretty good job at this, but finding out who's interested in contributing, I think that's really important. And I think that helps everybody. And I'm sure from your perspective, it dilutes a lot of the workflow and also allows you to crowdsource a little bit more of a, less of a narrow-minded kind of thought. So I think that leaning on the masses and finding out who wants to contribute to whatever that new task or rollout is powerful.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely does help when we have people wanting to contribute and help out along the line. Adam, I can't thank you enough. You brought a ton of amazing points today. Personally, it's great to see that as an enablement person, I'm doing something that another sales rep can actually see and agree with. So I can't thank you enough. Is there anything that I have failed to ask you or that you want to mention or address today?
I kind of want to put you on the spot because you put me on the spot. What is the single thing, the one thing that reps do that drives you crazy?
As far as enablement, like what we could do with sales reps to make sure that that transition's better, I think having sales reps complete the trainings, understand why we have done that, and providing feedback before we get down the road and they're trying to complete an opportunity or a sales cycle and not understanding why something's not working because training or enablement's already changed that for them. So if a sales rep, completes the training, understands it, asks the questions, we're always there to do that and help them out. But as far as if they don't complete it, it gets more frustrating down the line that, we have to reiterate ourselves and it's a topic of change that's already been addressed earlier in the year. So,
yeah, it's funny, man. From being on the front lines, I know, and maybe I'm guilty of this at times, but A's can be too cool for school. So, I'm not surprised by that answer in the slightest.
Yeah, definitely. It's a challenging thing. I get it. When I was a sales rep, I I was always the last to do my trainings too. So I 100% understand. But Adam, again, thank you for joining us today on Matt Chats. I greatly appreciate your time. And guys, if you haven't had a chance to check out Gong, please check them out. Great company, great product. I personally love what their mission is and how they're executing and involving the sales world. Please, please, please check it out. Contact Adam. He will definitely hook you guys up on that front as well too. But Adam, thank you again. And we'll see you guys next week with John the Collaborator. Thanks, guys.
Awesome, man. See you, bro.